on Subscribestar. So the rise of the social media influencer e-girl Eliza Bleu, the next Jack Murphy Goldman, question mark? First of all, Edwin Boyette had a GoFundMe set up because his apartment had a fire. If you'd like to help out with a $5 donation, I have all the respect in the world for Edwin. He is a genuinely nice guy, and more importantly, a good person who has been a big part of Comicsgate. I will include the link below. So keep in mind, this is the the It Girl, I think, started in the 30s and 40s, right? And then it slowly over the next 100 years morphed into the E-Girl. So Eliza Bleu, but first an introduction into how we got here. The rise of the social media celebrity, which I wonder if they started with Paris Hilton, who legitimately is a talented singer, songwriter, and decent actor. She's smart, but it seemed like she was the start of someone getting famous because a network wanted to spoon feed her to the populace. And her partner in the show, Nicole Richie, didn't really take off as a celebrity because she actually seemed like a bit of a sociopath, which in her defense, when she started The Simple Life in 2003, she was 10 days out of rehab for heroin. So, it's like you just out of rehab and someone puts you in a show and you think that's a good idea. It's like, I guess that's Hollywood. Anyway, ever since then, you got something that was only possible because of the internet and social media, the modern day It Girl. But where Paris actually was talented, though she doesn't really get credit for it because, like one sex tape's like, well, who, like that doesn't, like a sex tape you make at 19, that's like, that shouldn't follow you around forever as some judgment on your decision-making abilities. Like, you're 19, it's just not the end of the world, or at any age you make a, whatever. It's like you give someone a camera, it's like, what's the first thing you're going to do when cameras came on the scene? It's like, I know what we should do with this, honey. It's like, that sounds like a great idea. I'm sure we won't regret that. Anyway, Kim Kardashian is a little different, and her whole family got famous because, another sex tape, right? But because the network wanted to build a show around them, and they did. It was just that easy. There were billions of dollars that were made from this one AstroTurf show, a completely artificial construct about a somewhat normal Hollywood family. I mean, for Hollywood. The whole thing was just the purest sort of Weimar level of entertainment. It all meant nothing. It was just $1 billion soap opera about, I guess it's the biblical Sodom and Gomorrah, or the modern day equivalent anyway. After that, you saw all these kind of club type of kid people who suddenly saw that they were good looking and they could speak a little. They might be actors, and they knew they wanted to capitalize on this new industry, the self-made celebrity, which morphed into the social media influencer. And then there's a spectrum of the influencer, and there's a funny article about this girl who tried to bootstrap her way into it. She flew all over the place, and she posed in front of oddball locations and modeled different outfits, like what the Instagram models do, I guess. But the problem was she was like 10 pounds too fat to really pull off the look. There really is an equation. For every percentage of body fat you are over the ideal is an amount of decreased social media footprint and money to be made. I don't mean that in an offensive way or subjectively. I mean, like, that's an objective equation. And if you have a social media footprint, you're one of those good looking girls. It's like, like all those Twitch girls, the bikini girls, like, they're getting millions and millions of dollars because they're, under 20% body fat, or whatever it is, like whatever their look is. It's like they know every pound they went over that would be a decrease in earnings. Like, they could literally track it on a chart. It's not offensive or istophobic. It's like you could literally put it on a track. It's like for every pound you lost, you would make more money. So this girl flew all over, but it was actually costing her money to do it. And she went into debt to try to be an influencer simply because she didn't have a thigh gap. Nobody wants to follow a decent looking person when there are people out there who are great looking because they just won't touch a carbohydrate, which is, I got to say, if you want to lose weight, the keto is the way to go. Like, if it was just a financial thing, I can understand it. If you were very physically fit and you had a personality, then it might be a good investment. But for a lot of these people, they seem to value the celebrity of it just in and of itself. They just wanted to be in the public eye, which is weird if you're familiar with the public, because there are a lot of legitimate psychos out there. And then there's like another grade of, like, low grade celebrity where they go into clothing stores, they try on clothing, and they take pictures of themselves trying on clothing as if they own it. And it's like, that's their Instagram models. Like, I'm sure that if you could step back and watch the clothing store clerk, who's probably watching this whole thing, Like, we see what you're doing. This is pathetic. But it's, people are so desperate to be out there. It really is a sick media made society, and I think some of us are hoping for the fire and brimstone to thin out the herd. Anyway, so you got this new creation of a spectrum of a social media footprint, the rise of digital cameras and social media. People started to film their own music videos, they made skits and small shows. Some very creative stuff came out of the early days of social media, especially on YouTube. And then you had sort of the lowest level of social media, the good looking girl who was like a music video girl, but she didn't do anything else. Her job was to just to stay super skinny and be great at hair and makeup and just be fabulous. And you look and it's that's that's it. That's the whole thing, is just being skinny. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's like it's a market. They took pictures of themselves and they did star in music videos and do guest appearances, and they pretty much didn't do anything. They were just skinny and pretty and really knew how to do their makeup. And it's like, still, if you're a high school girl or something, you're skinny, you know how to do makeup, and you can talk. Like, there's a lot of money to be made on YouTube. You could do that for like 10 or 15 years and literally make millions and millions of dollars if you have some kind of personality that could come across on screen. It's mostly just staying skinny and being a master of makeup and just mastering the algorithm. So most of these chicks are just doing it to catch a husband and turn their social media into a blog about raising kids and fitness and nutrition, which is a great gig if you have an audience for it. Now, within these social media / model actors, hooker waitress types, there's a lot of shady behavior and people, drugs, prawn, and ladies of negotiable affection type of, Weinstein type of stuff, or Epstein type of stuff. Keep in mind, like, these aren't your ordinary crowd. A lot of these are the fast crowd, and some of them are living a fast life, and a lot of them are going to be living a short life, including all kinds of vices and things that, like, if they leave the life behind, they would like to move on from, and they should have the right to, leave that stuff behind, get married, have kids, go to church, rejoin a healthier community, all that kind of stuff. But there's a type of people who are just natural born grifters. I think there's a theory that there are more people with sociopathic tendencies than was previously thought. I think it might be a function of this present culture where civilization probably just gives rise to sociopaths. And, civilization's also a pretty recent thing within 10 to 15,000 years of people having to try to set up, I guess the equivalent of like proto towns and towns. And you heard the Jack Murphy story. Those types of men's grifters are a dime a dozen, like in the sense that they're almost all grifters who are just selling books and shilling snake oil or beard oil or coffee or whatever, and collecting Patreon money from gullible young men. Not all are as bad as Jack Goldman. He is a different kind of scumbag because he was actively giving harmful advice. I mean, insane advice to young men. And like some of the stuff, I mean, that's when it all came out, when some of his advice was coming out. Like, this guy's mentally ill, schizophrenic, whatever. It's like finally the veil was pulled, and people looked at this guy like, oh, he's just freaking crazy. It's like he's not just out there a little bit. It's like he's hearing voices in his head, and he's giving you insane advice. I mean, there's people who are like paying somebody on the internet like thousands of dollars. So if someone is like a health and nutrition guy, and there are some of those good guys on YouTube, and maybe adding in like some good basic life advice and selling books to pay the bills, that's fine. I mean, like once you get past a certain age, you can quickly look at the difference and see what's reasonable and what's not. Somebody who's doing like a fitness thing. There's a couple of those guys on YouTube. I forget their names, and I'm sure they sell newsletters and fitness books and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, yeah, the service is beneficial. You're part of their crowd. You're part of their collection. You're into health and diet and fitness, and you want to stay. You want to have that like fresh in your mind. So you pay the $2 a month to be part of that kind of club thing. It's like that's beneficial. It's teaching you something. But Goldman was teaching people to be a sexual degenerate because he was a degenerate and he wanted to drag the world down to his level. And I really haven't looked into that Andrew Tate guy that much, but from 30,000 feet, it kind of looks like he might be another one of those characters. But again, I haven't looked into it. So that's kind of a long intro to get to Eliza Bleu. And looking at it from a distance, is she doing good work right now? Like, put everything in balance. Is she positive or negative? And from what I've seen on Twitter, yeah, she's doing great stuff and she's going after very bad people. Now, people seem to expect that folks in the public eye to be perfect, which, the one cool thing about being on the politically incorrect side is that we've already burned all our bridges. So you don't have to dig through our past to find cancelable stuff because we say it every day across as many platforms as possible, which is why, as if you're really over target, you get kicked off payment processors, banks, and the mainstream social media platforms like Vincent James or Nick Fuentes or hundreds of other people who have flown a little too close to the sun. My point is, what with those guys, you know what you're getting. It's like the South Park. It's right in your face, which is a lot easier. Anyway, so now you have this lady who's getting retweeted from Elon Musk, which is, Elon Musk is, he is a super, super celebrity on the level of, like on the level of a Kardashian, but for kind of a different sphere. But he is one of the biggest names right now, and she's tied into him and she's blowing up. But keep in mind, she was accomplishing good stuff. She was chasing down some very bad people. She was helping people out. She was bringing attention to the trafficking issue and the prawn issue and the exploitation of people. Now, I don't know the first thing about her, like the real truth about her. Is she a social media person? I mean, she is a social media personality. She probably has a shady past. Yeah, probably, but she's not on the Jack Goldman level. That's on a whole different thing. Maybe Brittany Ventney is off base. Maybe not. Maybe Eliza Blue's story doesn't add up perfectly. And she panicked and she blocked a bunch of people. Nobody likes to have a mob come after them, whether it's on the right or the left. And another thing I understand is people keep posting her old horror pictures when she was in those horror music videos. I'm not sure how that supports either side's argument. She was a half-naked girl in music videos. Nobody said she was perfect. It's possible even for filthy drug-using whores to put their life behind them, jump into a 12-step program, and teach people about what they went through. Anyway, I just thought I would offer a different perspective on this. Click the links, become a member of this channel, or subscribe, start, and then we'll see you guys all next episode.